Lightning split the sky the night Victor Agello found her dying on the highway. A black soldier in uniform, bleeding out in the rain. He should have kept driving, should have stayed invisible. But the moment he saw the American flag on her shoulder, the moment her defiant eyes met his, he knew. Saving her life would unravel conspiracies that reached from the Mafia's underworld straight into the heart of the United States military. Victor Agello was not having a good night. He'd just ordered the execution of a traitor. 2 shipments had been seized by the feds. His most trusted lieutenant was questioning his leadership. And the ghost of his younger brother, dead 8 years now, haunted him more tonight than it had in months. So Victor did something dangerous for a man in his position. He drove alone. No bodyguards, no underboss riding shotgun. Just Victor in his black Mercedes, Chopin playing low, tearing down Highway 87 through a violent thunderstorm at 11:47 p.m. Then his headlights caught something. A shape on the shoulder. Military fatigues. A woman, face down, uniform soaked with rain and blood. Victor recognized that uniform. The camouflage pattern, the American flag patch, the lieutenant's bars. Marcus had worn that same uniform before he died at 23 in a training accident Victor had never believed was an accident. Every instinct screamed, "Drive past, don't stop. This is how empires fall." But he was already pulling over. Rain hit him like cold fists, soaking his $3,000 suit in seconds. The woman was young, mid-20s, strong build despite obvious malnourishment. Gunshot wounds, multiple. Professionally done. This wasn't combat. This was an execution. Victor knelt beside her. Her eyes fluttered open. Defiant, even dying. No fear, no pleading. Just fierce awareness. "Hey," Victor said. "Can you hear me?" Her lips moved. "Let me die." With dignity, she recognized him. Even half dead, she knew Victor Agello. "That's not happening tonight," Victor said, pressing his hands over the worst wound. "Who did this?" Her trembling hand gripped his wrist. "Military," she whispered. "My own. Partner. Set me up. Tried to. Silence me." Victor went absolutely still. In a flash of lightning, he saw her torn name tape. L.T. Smith, J, and beneath it, a unit patch. The same unit Marcus had served in before he died. "You don't get to die in the rain like garbage, Lieutenant," he said, scooping her into his arms. "Not because some corrupt bastards decided you knew too much." "Why?" she breathed. "Why help a dying soldier?" "Because nobody helped my brother when he needed it," Victor said quietly, laying her across the back seat. "Because someone should have." Her hand gripped his jacket. "I was investigating weapons trafficking. They found out. Colonel Harrison," he ordered. She choked, coughed blood. Victor pulled out his phone, dialed Dr. Yuri Volkov. "Riverside Safe House. Now. Gunshot wounds, critical condition." As he sped toward the safe house, Julia's eyes met his in the rearview mirror. "They'll come for you," she whispered. "When they find out. You saved me." Victor's expression hardened. "Let them." In the back seat, Lieutenant Julia Smith mumbled fragments. "The shipments. 40 million. Harrison knows. Marcus Antonelli. Training accident." Victor's blood turned to ice. She'd said Marcus's name. His brother's name. This wasn't coincidence. This was connected to the death that had destroyed Victor's life 8 years ago. The death that had turned him from Victor Antonelli, legitimate businessman, into Victor Agello, crime lord. For the first time in 8 years, Victor realized something terrifying and liberating. He'd just started a war with people far more dangerous than rival crime families. He'd started a war with the United States military. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. Tonight's story is about redemption, courage, and a love that survived the darkest places. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Now, settle in, and let's begin. The safe house was an abandoned warehouse, converted into a fortress. Dr. Volkov was already there, silver hair disheveled, surgeon's hands steady. His eyes widened when Victor carried Julia through the door. "Military? Victor, this is necessary," Victor cut him off. Save her first, then we'll discuss the implications. As Volkov began cutting away her uniform, Victor noticed something pinned inside her jacket, protected from the rain. A USB drive wrapped in waterproof plastic. Evidence. Victor pocketed the drive. Volkov worked for 3 hours in silence. When he finally stepped back, his expression was grim. She'll live, but barely. Another 10 minutes in that rain, and nothing I could have done would have mattered. Victor pulled the USB drive from his pocket. She's a soldier. She uncovered something that got her killed, and I think it's connected to Marcus. Volkov went very still. You're sure? She said his name. While dying, she said Marcus Antonelli in training accident in the same breath. Victor's jaw clenched. The same base, the same unit. Then you've just declared war on the United States military. They declared war first. Victor spent hours examining Julia's USB drive. What he found made his blood run cold. Inventory reports, shipping manifests, photographs of military weapons being loaded into unmarked trucks, financial records showing millions of dollars routed through shell companies, and names. Colonel Frank Harrison, Sergeant Rodriguez, Captain Morrison, General Richard Cordell, and there, buried in a file marked Prior Incidents, Marcus Antonelli, training accident, Fort Bragg, 8 years ago, status, closed. But someone had unredacted the witness statements. Witness statement, Private David Lawson. I saw Lieutenant Antonelli arguing with Colonel Harrison near the training tower at approximately 2,100 hours. The colonel was angry. Marcus said something about reporting him. Then Morrison and Rodriguez showed up. They told me to leave. I heard shouting after I walked away. 20 minutes later, they found Marcus's body at the base of the tower. Lawson's statement had been redacted from the official report. 3 months later, he was dishonorably discharged. 2 years ago, he died in a car accident. Single vehicle collision, no witnesses. The pattern was clear. Marcus had discovered the weapons trafficking, had confronted Harrison, had been murdered for it. Marcus, Victor whispered. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. Behind him, Julia stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, then clarity hit. Terror. She tried to sit up, gasped as stitches pulled. Easy, Victor said. You've got 47 stitches. I wouldn't recommend sudden movements. You're Victor Agello. Recognition, confusion, fear. And you're Lieutenant Julia Smith. He stepped into the light. Welcome back to the living. We have a lot to discuss. She reached for a weapon that wasn't there. Victor gently pressed her shoulder back. Your weapon is in the safe. Your uniform is destroyed. And the people who tried to kill you think you're dead. He pulled a chair closer, which gives us a small window to figure out what the hell is going on. Where am I? One of my safe houses. The doctor who saved your life asks no questions. You're secure here. I need to contact my commanding officer. Colonel Frank Harrison? Victor's voice went cold. The man who ordered your execution? Julia went absolutely still. How do you know that name? Victor held up the USB drive. Because you documented everything. His name is all over your files. He paused. Including my weapons suppliers. Understanding dawned, followed by horror. You're one of them. You're part of the trafficking network. I was buying from them, yes. I thought I was purchasing from corrupt contractors, not active-duty military. Victor leaned forward. Your investigation and my criminal operation intersect. Neither of us knew we were opposite ends of the same conspiracy. Julia's eyes filled with tears of rage. They shot me. Rodriguez, Martinez, Davis. People I trusted. And when they caught me, Rodriguez apologized before he pulled the trigger. I know. I read your report. Victor's voice softened. What if I told you that your investigation connects to something personal for me? That Harrison and his people might be responsible for a death I've been trying to solve for 8 years? Whose death? My brother's, Marcus Antonelli. He died at Fort Bragg in a training accident 8 years ago. Except it wasn't an accident. Victor's voice cracked. He discovered the same thing you did. Silence stretched taut. Julia searched his face. Marcus Antonelli. I saw his name in the files. There was a witness statement. That's been redacted for 8 years. Until you access the original files. Victor stood, paced to the window. I'm offering you an alliance. I have resources, money, connections. You have evidence, military access, moral authority. Together we can expose Harrison. Apart, we're both dead within a week. Julia was silent. Finally, this is insane. Yes. An alliance between a mafia boss and a dying soldier. You're not dying anymore. If I do this, Julia said slowly, if I work with you, it doesn't make you less of a criminal. When this is over, I'll still testify against you. A ghost of a smile touched Victor's lips. I'd expect nothing less. She extended her hand. Temporary alliance. We take down Harrison, then we go our separate ways. Victor took her hand. Agreed. But even as they shook on it, both knew it was a lie. This wasn't temporary. They'd found each other in the storm, and that kind of connection didn't dissolve with missions accomplished. They'd started something that would change them both forever. Victor's tech specialist Zero delivered encrypted files by noon the next day. Military records, personnel files, classified documents that shouldn't exist outside Pentagon servers. Everything on Marcus Antonelli's death investigation, Zero said, her distorted voice clinical. Plus cross-references to every name Lieutenant Smith flagged. Victor, this goes deeper than you thought. The trafficking network spans 6 military bases, involves over 40 personnel, and has been operating for 12 years. Julia leaned forward. 12 years? But Marcus died 8 years ago. Marcus wasn't the first, Zero replied. I found 3 other training accidents at Fort Bragg before his death. All victims had filed complaints about inventory irregularities. All investigations closed quickly. Victor felt something cold settle in his chest. Names: Staff Sergeant Ryan Cooper, Captain Jennifer Wu, Lieutenant David Park. Zero's voice remained flat. All dead within 48 hours of filing complaints. My God, Julia whispered. This isn't a conspiracy. It's serial killing disguised as military accidents. And Colonel Frank Harrison was the commanding officer for all of them. Victor's hands trembled with rage. Harrison has been murdering soldiers for over a decade. Zero, Victor said. Find me a witness, someone who saw something and survived. Already done. Private Thomas Riley, discharged last year, lives in Montana now. He was interviewed during Marcus's investigation. His statement was buried, but I found it. Victor's heart pounded. Send me his contact information, Riley answered warily. Yeah, my name is Victor Agello. I'm Marcus Antonelli's brother. Silence. Then, I told them I didn't see anything. I signed the statements. I got out. I'm done. You saw Marcus arguing with Colonel Harrison the night he died, Victor said firmly. You tried to testify and they discharged you for it. Mr. Riley, I finally have the resources to find the truth. The truth destroyed my life. Julia leaned toward the phone. Private Riley, this is Lieutenant Julia Smith. 3 days ago, Harrison ordered my execution because I discovered the same trafficking operation Marcus found. They shot me 3 times. The only reason I'm alive is because Mr. Agello found me. Long silence. You're supposed to be dead. They faked my death to close the investigation, just like they faked Marcus's accident. Julia's voice carried command. We're building a case, but we need witnesses brave enough to tell the truth. I have a daughter. She's 3 years old. We'll protect you, Victor cut in. Your daughter will be safer with our protection than she is right now. Harrison silences loose ends. You know that. Riley's breathing was ragged. What do you want to know? And Riley told them everything. How he'd heard shouting from the training tower. How he'd seen Marcus arguing with Harrison, Morrison, and Rodriguez. Marcus holding papers, demanding Harrison explain missing weapons shipments. Harrison threatening court-martial. Marcus didn't back down, Riley said. He said he'd already copied the evidence, sent it somewhere safe. Victor's hands clenched. What happened next? Harrison told me to leave. I walked away but stayed close. I heard more shouting, then a scream, then silence. Riley's breath hitched. I found Marcus's body at the tower base 10 minutes later. But by the time investigators arrived, Harrison had his story ready. Witnesses who saw Marcus climb alone. Riley, Victor said carefully. Marcus told Harrison he'd sent evidence somewhere safe. Do you know where? He mentioned his brother once. Said you'd know what to do if something happened. Victor's mind raced back 8 years. A storage unit. Marcus paid for a storage unit in Philadelphia. I received notification 2 weeks after his death. I thought it was just his belongings. I couldn't bear to go through his stuff. Check that storage unit, Riley urged. That's where the evidence is. Victor was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Riley, record a video statement. Everything you just told me. Send it to my secure server, then pack your family and disappear. I'll send location details and money. After Riley agreed, Victor disconnected. Julia stood slowly. We need to get to that storage unit. Tomorrow, Victor said. Tonight we prepare. Harrison's watching. We move carefully. The storage facility was in northeast Philadelphia. Victor cut the dusty lock, and the door rolled up with a metallic screech. Inside, boxes. Dozens. Neatly labeled in Marcus's handwriting. Books. Clothes. Photos. The detritus of a life cut short. Help me look, Victor said. Anything that seems like evidence. They worked in tense silence. Julia found it. A box labeled Tax Documents 2016. Inside, beneath actual tax forms, a large manila envelope sealed with tape. Victor ripped it open with trembling hands. Inside, a letter, documents, and 3 USB drives. The letter was addressed to Victor. He read it aloud, voice breaking. Asterisk Victor. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. Harrison found out I copied the evidence, or I said something stupid, or I ran out of luck. I'm sorry. Asterisk. Asterisk. But I need you to know. What I found is bigger than Fort Bragg. It's systematic looting of military resources by officers at the highest levels. Hundreds of millions of dollars stolen and sold to criminals and foreign militias. People have died. Good soldiers who asked questions. Asterisk. Asterisk, I documented everything. Names, dates, transactions, bank accounts. It's all on these drives. But Victor, you can't take this to the military. The corruption reaches too high. Asterisk. Asterisk. I don't know what you should do with this, but you're the smartest person I know. You'll figure it out, and if something happens to me, don't let them call it an accident. Asterisk. Asterisk, I love you, big brother. I'm sorry I won't be there for your wedding, for your kids. But I'm not sorry I stood up for what's right. Asterisk. Asterisk. Make them pay. However you have to. Asterisk. Asterisk. Your brother always. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus asterisk. Silence filled the storage unit. Victor's hands shook holding the letter, tears streaming down his face. Julia wiped her own eyes. He knew they'd kill him, and he documented everything anyway. Because that's who he was. Victor folded the letter carefully, tucked it over his heart. Brave and stupid and so goddamn noble. He grabbed the USB drives and documents. We need to. The sound of vehicles outside cut him off. Multiple engines, moving fast. Victor killed the lights, moved to the door. Through the gap, 3 black SUVs. Men emerging with tactical gear and assault rifles. Military contractors, Julia breathed. Harrison's people. How did they find us? The storage unit. Riley mentioned it on the phone. If Harrison's monitoring your communications, then he knows we're here. Victor grabbed the evidence box. Back exit. Now. They ran through the maze of corridors. Behind them, shouts, tactical commands, boots on concrete. The back exit was chained. Victor shot the lock twice, kicked the door open. They emerged into an alley, the sedan 30 yards away. Gunfire erupted. Bullets sparked off concrete. Julia returned fire without breaking stride, buying them seconds. Victor reached the car, threw the evidence inside, had the engine roaring before Julia dove into the passenger seat. Tires screamed. In the mirror, contractors poured into the alley. More gunfire, the rear window shattering. Julia twisted, fired back through the broken glass. 2 contractors went down. Not dead, but incapacitated. Don't kill them, Victor shouted. We're not murderers. Victor executed tactical driving. Random turns, doubling back, using traffic as cover. He made a hard right into a parking garage, accelerated to the 3rd level, then killed the engine and lights. The SUV's engines growled past, continuing down the street. "They lost us," Julia whispered. "For now." Victor pulled out a burner phone. "I'm calling in a favor." He dialed a number from memory. A woman's voice answered, professional and wary. "Who is this?" "It's Victor. I need emergency extraction. 2 people, 1 vehicle, Philadelphia to New York." A pause. "Cost?" "Name it." 1 million, cash. "Deal. Where?" The woman gave coordinates. "A private airstrip in New Jersey, 40 minutes away." Victor looked at Julia. "We're going to New York. I have a property there. We'll be safe while we analyze Marcus's evidence." Julia suddenly grabbed his arm. "Wait, my mother. They'll go after her next." Victor was already calling his lieutenant. "Reaper, Extraction Protocol Alpha. Angela Smith, Philadelphia. Move her to the New York safe house within the hour." Victor looked at Julia. "She'll be safe. I promise." "I'm starting to believe your promises actually mean something," Julia said quietly. The private airstrip appeared through darkness. A single runway, a Cessna Citation waiting with engines running. The pilot was a woman in her 50s who didn't introduce herself, didn't ask questions, just jerked her head toward the plane. 10 minutes, then I'm gone." They were airborne in 8 minutes, Philadelphia shrinking beneath them into a grid of lights. "Reaper sent confirmation," Victor said, checking his phone. "Your mother's secured." He extracted her from a coffee shop 3 blocks from her house. She was being followed by 2 contractors. Julia's relief was physical. "Is she scared?" "Reaper says she's more angry than scared. Kept demanding to know if you're alive." Victor smiled slightly. "She sounds formidable. She raised me alone after my father died. Formidable doesn't begin to cover it." Julia closed her eyes, exhaustion overwhelming her. "There's a bedroom in my New York property," Victor said. "You should sleep." "Can't. We need to analyze Marcus's evidence." "After you sleep." His voice left no room for argument. "You're healing from gunshot wounds. You're no good to anyone if you collapse." Julia wanted to protest, but her body betrayed her with a jaw-cracking yawn. "Fine, a few hours." Victor's property was in Tribeca, a converted warehouse that looked industrial from outside but opened into luxury within. The private elevator required biometric identification. The penthouse defied expectations. Clean lines, minimalist furniture, walls of windows overlooking the Hudson, books lining shelves, art that looked museum quality. "This doesn't look like a criminal's lair," Julia said. Victor's smile was sad. "This was my father's place. He believed in beauty, culture, education. I inherited it when he died, but I've barely been here. Too many memories." He showed her to a bedroom. "Clean clothes in the closet. Rest, Julia, that's an order." After he left, Julia showered. Agony and salvation. She climbed into bed, intending to rest for an hour. She woke 8 hours later to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Victor sat surrounded by laptops and documents, Marcus's USB drives plugged into multiple computers. He'd changed clothes, jeans, and black t-shirt. The circles under his eyes said he hadn't slept. "You should have woken me," Julia said. "You needed rest more than I needed help." He gestured to the screens. "Marcus's evidence is comprehensive. Terrifying but comprehensive." Julia sat beside him, looked at the data. Financial records showing hundreds of transactions, photographs of weapons, shipments, emails discussing special procurement, coded language that fooled no one. "How much money?" Julia asked. 200 million over 12 years, possibly more. Victor pulled up a spreadsheet. "The money flows through multiple layers, but ultimately traces to 3 accounts: Colonel Frank Harrison, Captain Morrison, and General Richard Cordell, Pentagon Procurement Office." Julia felt sick. A general. "How many people has he killed to protect this?" "At least 7 that I can confirm." Marcus documented their cases. Victor pulled up files, faces of the dead. "Young, idealistic, murdered for integrity. We need someone inside the military who can act on this," Julia said. "Someone with authority and integrity." "Captain Rebecca Torres," Victor said, pulling up a personnel file. "Your friend from Afghanistan. Her record is impeccable." 17 years of service, decorated investigator with JAG, and most importantly, she has no financial ties to anyone involved. How do you know about Becca? You mentioned her at the warehouse. I researched everyone you've had contact with. Victor's smile was apologetic. Force of habit. Julia wasn't sure whether to be offended or impressed. Torres is by the book. She won't work with a criminal. She'll work with you. And right now, you're my partner. Victor handed Julia a secure phone. Call her. Tell her you're alive. Tell her what you found. Send her encrypted copies of Marcus's evidence. Julia held the phone, thinking. Once she called Torres, everything became real. Full exposure, with all the risks. But Marcus hadn't survived. Neither had Cooper, Wu, Park, or the others. They'd died because they'd believed in doing the right thing. Okay, Julia said quietly. I'll call her. But Victor, when this goes public, they're going to look at you too. Your organization, your crimes. You won't get immunity. I know. Victor met her eyes steadily. I accepted that possibility the moment I stopped on that highway. Saving you meant risking everything I built. But some things are worth more than safety. The unspoken words hung between them. Asterisk. You're worth more than safety. Asterisk. Julia dialed Torres's number. Torres answered on the second ring. Captain Torres. Becca, it's Jules. Silence. Then. Jules? Julia Smith? But you're, the report said. The report said I died in a warehouse fire. The reports lied. Julia's voice steadied. Becca, I need you to listen very carefully. Colonel Frank Harrison ordered my execution 3 days ago, because I discovered he's been trafficking military weapons for over 12 years. I survived because a civilian found me and got me medical attention. Jesus Christ, Jules. I have evidence. Documents, financial records, witness statements, proof of systematic weapons trafficking from Fort Bragg to Pentagon procurement, multiple soldiers murdered to cover it up. Becca, this is treason. Torres was silent. Where are you? Safe location. I can't tell you more over the phone. And this civilian who saved you, who is he? Julia glanced at Victor. Someone who has his own reasons for wanting Harrison exposed. Someone who lost family to this conspiracy. Jules, be straight with me. Are you being coerced? I'm safe. I promise. Safer than I'd be anywhere else. Julia took a breath. Becca, I'm sending you encrypted files. Everything I found, plus evidence from another investigation 8 years ago. Review it. Verify it. Then tell me if I'm lying or if this is real. Send it. But Jules, if this is real, your life will never be normal again. My life stopped being normal when my own squad tried to murder me. Julia's voice was steel. Send the files to your secure email? Yes. And Jules, be careful. After disconnecting, Julia sent the encrypted files. Gigabytes of data that would destroy dozens of careers. It's done, she said quietly. Torres will review everything, probably bring in FBI and military investigators within 24 hours. Good. Victor stood, stretched. Now we prepare for what comes next. What comes next is we go into protective custody. No, Victor's voice was firm. The moment you're in official custody, you lose control. Bureaucracy takes over. Investigations move at government pace, and Harrison has time to destroy evidence. We stay free, mobile, dangerous. Julia wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Then what's our next move? Victor's smile was dangerous. We make Harrison come to us. Harrison's hosting a military gala in 3 days. Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. Hundreds of officers, politicians, contractors. We infiltrate the gala, get him on record admitting to the conspiracy, broadcast it live. That's suicidal. I'm not asking you to do this. If you want protective custody, I'll arrange it. Your mother's safe. Torres has the evidence. You've done your part. Julia looked at him. Really looked. Saw the grief driving him, the determination. And she saw something else. He was giving her a choice. No, she said quietly. I'm seeing this through. We do this together. Together. Their hands touched on the table, neither quite holding on but not pulling away. The connection was electric, dangerous. Julia's phone buzzed. Text from Torres. Asterisk evidence received. Holy shit, Jules. This is Pentagon-level corruption. I'm bringing in FBI and military investigators. Stay hidden. She believes us, Julia said. Of course she does. The evidence is undeniable. Zero called within the hour, her modulated voice tense. Victor, Harrison just activated his entire network. He's pulling assets from 6 bases, calling in contractors, and he's put out a $10 million bounty on Julia Smith. Alive. Julia felt ice in her chest. 10 million? Every mercenary and desperate criminal on the East Coast is looking for you now. Zero paused. Harrison's not trying to hide this anymore. Either he eliminates Julia, or he's destroyed. Victor's expression went cold, lethal. Then we end this fast. The next morning brought an anonymous text. Asterisk. I have information about Harrison's network. Meet me. Riverside Park, 2 p.m. Come alone or I disappear forever. Asterisk. Victor showed it to Julia. It's a trap. Obviously, but it might also be legitimate. I'm going, Victor decided. With backup. You stay here, secured. Julia started to protest, then stopped. Tactical necessity. If it's a trap, then Reaper will extract me. Victor checked his weapon. If I'm not back in 3 hours, execute the backup plan. Contact Torres. Finish this without me. Victor. He moved close, cupped her face gently. Promise me, if something happens, you don't throw your life away trying to save mine. You finish the mission. Julia's throat tightened. You matter too. Not as much as justice for Marcus. His thumb brushed her cheek. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, but he stepped back. 3 hours. Then you move on without me. 2 hours and 47 minutes later, the elevator chimed. Victor emerged, unharmed, and with him, a woman in her 40s, military bearing, eyes haunted. Julia Smith, meet Colonel Patricia Westwood, Victor said. She's been Harrison's logistics coordinator for 3 years, and she's ready to testify against him. Julia stood slowly, assessing. Why? Why betray Harrison now? Westwood's laugh was bitter. Because I just found out he murdered my nephew, Private Daniel Westwood. Training accident at Fort Bragg, 4 years ago. Her voice cracked. Danny asked me about missing equipment inventories 2 weeks before he died. I told him to drop it. Then Harrison called me, asked if Danny had mentioned anything unusual. I said no. 3 days later, my nephew fell from a training tower. Julia recognized the look in Westwood's eyes. The moment when loyalty died and rage was born. I'm sorry, Julia said quietly. Westwood opened her briefcase, pulled out multiple USB drives. I've spent 3 years coordinating weapons shipments for Harrison's network. I know every base involved, every officer taking payoffs, every contractor facilitating sales, bank account numbers, shipping manifests, communications logs, everything you need to dismantle the entire operation. Victor took the drives, handed them to Julia. I deserve prosecution, Westwood said. I helped murder my own nephew. I just want to stop them before more people die. Julia studied the woman, saw genuine remorse. Captain Torres is coordinating with FBI and military investigators. She'll need your testimony. But Colonel, the moment you go on record, Harrison will know. Let him try. Westwood's expression hardened. I'm done being afraid. Victor moved to his computers, began downloading Westwood's files. This changes everything. With your testimony plus Marcus's evidence plus Julia's investigation, Harrison can't cover this up. There's more, Westwood said quietly. The gala at Fort Hamilton in 3 days. It's not just a fundraiser. Harrison's finalizing a massive weapons sale. $50 million worth of equipment going to a Serbian militia group. The buyers will be there, posing as defense industry representatives. Julia's mind raced. He's conducting a $50 million illegal arms deal at a public military event? He's that confident no one will stop him, Westwood corrected. Victor smiled, cold and dangerous. Because this time we're not playing by his rules. We're bringing cameras, witnesses, and federal agents to his party. He pulled up the gala guest list, began cross-referencing with Westwood's files. Colonel, Can you identify which attendees are part of the conspiracy? Westwood pointed to names. Harrison, obviously. Morrison, Rodriguez, Martinez, General Cordell from the Pentagon, Senator Michaels. He's taken over $2 million in campaign contributions from shell companies Harrison controls. Jesus, Julia breathed. This reaches Congress? They spent 6 hours planning. Every detail, every contingency. False credentials would get Victor and Julia into the gala. Reaper's team positioned around Fort Hamilton, Torres with FBI agents standing by. Westwood coordinating communications. It's a good plan, Westwood said finally. Risky as hell, but good. After Westwood left, Victor and Julia stood at the windows, watching darkness settle over Manhattan. Your mother arrives in 2 hours, Victor said. Reaper's bringing her through multiple decoys. Thank you. Julia's voice was soft. For everything. I'm not doing this for gratitude, Victor interrupted. I'm doing it because it's right, and because… He trailed off. Because what? Julia prompted, turning to face him. Victor looked at her, really looked, his guard completely down. Because from the moment I found you dying on that highway, something changed. I'd spent 8 years becoming someone cold, calculated, dangerous. Then I saw you, defiant even in death, refusing to go quietly, and I remembered who I used to be, who Marcus believed I could still be. He moved closer. You saved me, Julia, just as much as I saved you. Julia's breath caught. They were inches apart. She knew this was dangerous, knew mixing emotions with their mission could compromise everything. But denying what she felt was impossible. Victor, she whispered, we can't. This can't. I know. But he didn't step back. His hand came up, fingers tracing her jawline. I know all the reasons this is impossible. Criminal and soldier. Different worlds. When this is over, we go our separate ways. Then why? Because I'm tired of living in the darkness alone, Victor said, his voice raw. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to fight for something beyond revenge. Because you make me want to be the man Marcus believed I was. Julia's hand covered his, pressing his palm against her face. You already are that man. I couldn't walk away from you. His forehead rested against hers. From the moment I saw you, I couldn't walk away. The kiss was inevitable. Soft at first, tentative. Then deeper, fierce. All the fear and adrenaline channeling into connection. Julia's hands fisted in his shirt. Victor's arms wrapped around her carefully, mindful of her injuries even as passion threatened to overwhelm restraint. They broke apart breathless, foreheads still touching. This is insane, Julia whispered. Yes. We're in the middle of exposing a military conspiracy. People are trying to kill us. Absolutely the worst timing. Victor's smile was soft, vulnerable. But I'm done pretending I don't feel this. Julia kissed him again, softer. After this is over. If we survive, we need to figure out what this is. Agreed. The elevator chimed. They stepped apart just as Reaper emerged with Angela Smith. Julia's mother took one look at her daughter. Alive. Standing, clearly healing, and burst into tears. Baby. Oh God, baby. You're alive. Julia crossed the room in 3 strides, caught her mother in a careful embrace. I'm okay, Mama. I'm okay. Angela pulled back, searched Julia's face, then looked at Victor. Her expression shifted. Maternal assessment, protective and fierce. You're him, the one who saved my daughter. Victor Agello, ma'am. He moved forward, respectful. I'm sorry for the circumstances, but I promise you, Julia is safe here. Angela studied him with the intensity of a woman who'd raised a daughter alone, who'd learned to read danger and truth in equal measure. Why? Why risk everything for a stranger? Victor's answer was simple, honest. Because no one helped my brother when he needed it. Because your daughter is fighting for justice, and that's worth protecting. Because… His eyes found Julia's. Because she matters. Angela's expression softened slightly. You're in love with her. Mama. Julia started, embarrassed. Hush, baby. A mother knows. Angela looked between them, saw the connection humming beneath their attempts at professionalism. And you, she addressed Julia. You feel the same way. Julia wanted to deny it, but she was done lying. Yes, I do. It's complicated and impossible and… Love usually is, Angela interrupted gently. She moved to Julia, cupped her face. Your father and I met during a robbery. He was the cop who responded. I was the witness. We fell in love while he was taking my statement. Everyone said it was too fast, too intense. We had 38 months together before he was killed. 38 months of happiness I wouldn't trade for anything. Her eyes filled with tears. Life is short, baby, especially for people who fight for what's right. Don't waste time pretending you don't feel what you feel. Julia hugged her mother, overwhelmed by permission she hadn't known she needed. Angela released Julia, turned to Victor. You keep my daughter alive. You hear me? Whatever it takes. I will, Victor promised. I swear it. The night of the Fort Hamilton Gala arrived, wrapped in false glamour and real danger. Julia stood before the mirror, adjusting the elegant black dress that concealed body armor and an ankle holster. Her reflection showed someone transformed. Not the broken soldier bleeding in the rain, but a woman forged in purpose. Victor appeared behind her, devastating in a tailored tuxedo that hid his own armor and weapons. Their eyes met in the mirror. You look beautiful, Victor said quietly. And terrifying. Julia turned to face him, straightened his bow tie even though it was already perfect. You clean up well for a reformed crime lord. Reformed. His smile was sad. Sometimes I still don't recognize myself. I recognize you. Julia's hand touched his face. I see exactly who you are. Victor. The moment stretched, charged with everything they'd been dancing around. Victor leaned closer, forehead resting against hers. After tonight, if we survive, we need to stop pretending. Pretending what? That this is just alliance, just partnership. His voice was rough with honesty. Julia, I'm in love with you. Have been since you first opened your eyes in that warehouse and looked at me like I was worth trusting. Julia's breath caught. I love you too. It's the worst timing, the most impossible situation, and I don't care. Victor kissed her then, soft and fierce simultaneously. Promise and claiming and goodbye all mixed together. When they broke apart, Julia rested her forehead against his chest. We should go. Torres is waiting. One more minute. Victor held her closer. Let me have one more minute where you're safe. But safety was an illusion they'd both learned to live without. The drive to Fort Hamilton was silent, each lost in tactical preparation. Reaper drove, eyes constantly scanning. Julia checked her concealed weapon while Victor reviewed floor plans. Remember, Victor said, Harrison will have people watching. We blend in, circulate separately, work our way closer to his inner circle. And when he sees me, then all hell breaks loose and we adapt. Victor's hand found hers. But you're not alone in this. Fort Hamilton sprawled along the Narrows. The gala was held in the Officers' Club, a historic building that would tonight host the exposure of the greatest corruption scandal in military history. Security was intense but predictable. Victor and Julia passed through with their carefully concealed ceramic weapons. They smiled at guards who saw only elegant guests. Inside, the ballroom glittered with false honor. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over uniformed officers wearing medals earned through betrayal. Julia's stomach churned. Somewhere in this room were the people who'd tried to murder her. Steady, Victor murmured. You've got this. Julia spotted Harrison immediately. Colonel Frank Harrison stood near the bar, confident and secure. The medals on his chest, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, were real accomplishments tarnished by unforgivable crimes. Beside him, Rodriguez, Morrison, and General Richard Cordell. There, Julia breathed. All of them. Together. Torres has eyes on them, Victor murmured. FBI and military investigators are positioned outside. We just need Harrison to incriminate himself publicly. They separated as planned. Victor headed toward the bar while Julia circulated, forcing small talk while her heart hammered. She watched Victor work his way closer to Harrison's group, shaking hands with senators, discussing defense contracts. Julia edged toward Harrison's circle, positioning herself to overhear. The colonel was telling a story about leadership and sacrifice. The hypocrisy was staggering. Then Harrison's voice dropped. The Serbian buyers are here. 3rd floor conference room, 2,300 hours. We finalize the transaction, they wire the money, we're done. Julia's heart raced. The arms deal. Happening tonight. She caught Victor's eye across the room, saw him nod. He'd heard it too. She moved toward the restroom, pulled out her phone. Texted Torres. Asterisk deal happening now. 3rd floor conference room, 2,300 hours. Move in on my signal. Asterisk. Torres's response was immediate. Asterisk. Copy. Team's ready. Be careful, Jules. Asterisk. At 22:50, Harrison and his group began moving toward the stairs. Julia and Victor followed at a distance. The 3rd floor corridor was dimmer, more utilitarian. 2 armed contractors stood outside the conference room. Victor approached with easy confidence, flashing forged credentials. We're here for the procurement meeting, Victor said smoothly. The contractors exchanged glances. One spoke into his radio. After a tense moment, he received confirmation and stepped aside. Inside, the conference room had been transformed. Weapons crates lined one wall, M4 rifles, grenades, ammunition, night vision equipment, all stamped with U.S. military markings. At the table sat Harrison, Cordell, Morrison, Rodriguez, and 3 men in expensive suits, the Serbian buyers. Harrison looked up as Victor and Julia entered. For a split second, confusion. Then recognition hit like a physical blow. His face drained of color. Lieutenant Smith. His voice was strangled. Impossible. You're dead. Rodriguez put 3 bullets in you. Disappointed, Colonel? Julia stepped into full light, letting him see her clearly. She pulled off the wrap that concealed her scarred shoulder. Your execution didn't quite take. The room exploded into motion. Harrison's hand moved toward his weapon. Morrison stood abruptly. Rodriguez went pale, looking like he was seeing a ghost. But Victor was faster. His gun materialized, aimed at Harrison's center mass. I wouldn't. FBI tactical teams have this building surrounded. Military investigators are standing by. You're done, Harrison. You're bluffing. But Harrison's voice held uncertainty. Am I? Julia pulled out her phone, played the recording. Harrison's voice from earlier discussing the deal. Then Torres's voice. This is Captain Rebecca Torres, Judge Advocate General's Corps. Colonel Harrison, you are under investigation for weapons trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Cordell stood abruptly, face flushed. Harrison, what the hell is this? You said Smith was eliminated. It was. This is. Harrison was unraveling. Morrison pulled his weapon, aimed at Julia with trembling hands. We can still fix this. Kill them both. Destroy the evidence. And then what? Victor's voice was cold, lethal. Kill the FBI agents outside? The military investigators? Captain Torres? How many people do you have to murder before you admit you've lost? One of the Serbian buyers raised his hands. We want no part of American military problems. This meeting, we were never here. That's not how this works, Julia said. You're trafficking in stolen U.S. military equipment. You're going to prison just like they are. Then Torres's voice cut through everything, amplified by loudspeaker. This is Captain Rebecca Torres, United States Army, coordinating with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The building is surrounded. Exit the room with hands raised or we will breach with tactical teams. The finality hung in the air. Harrison's face drained of color. But disparate men make disparate choice. Harrison grabbed his weapon, brought it up with surprising speed. But he didn't aim at Victor. He aimed at Julia. If I'm going down, Harrison snarled, you're coming with me. Time slowed to nightmare frames. Julia saw the weapon rise, saw Harrison's finger tighten on the trigger. Then Victor was there. He moved without thinking, placed himself between Julia and the gun. The shot rang out, deafening. The bullet caught Victor in the chest, high on the left side. He staggered, blood blooming across his white shirt. No! Julia's scream tore from her throat as she caught him, lowered him carefully. His blood was warm, spreading too fast. Victor, stay with me. Don't you dare. The door exploded inward. FBI agents in tactical gear flooded the room, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Morrison was tackled. Rodriguez dropped his weapon. Harrison stood frozen as agents swarmed him. "You were supposed to die," Harrison screamed at Julia. "Why couldn't you just die?" "Because people like me don't disappear," Julia said, cradling Victor against her chest. His blood was everywhere, seeping through her fingers. "We come back. We testify. We make sure men like you answer for what you've done." Torres burst through the crowd, already on her radio calling for medics. She dropped beside them. "Jules, are you hit?" "Not me. Victor took the bullet meant for me." Julia's hands shook as she maintained pressure. She could feel his heartbeat under her palms, rapid and weak. "Don't you dare die, Victor. Don't you dare leave me now." Victor's eyes focused on her face, struggling for consciousness. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Wouldn't dream of it. We have plans to make." "So many plans," Julia whispered, tears streaming. "A whole life, Victor. You and me. You promised. Something real." He echoed. Then his eyes closed. "Victor." Julia shook him gently, desperately. "Victor, stay with me." Paramedics arrived. Julia refused to let go of his hand as they worked, as they loaded him onto a stretcher. "Ma'am, we need to move now," a paramedic said urgently. "He's losing too much blood." Julia followed, refusing to be separated. Behind them, Torres directed agents as they led Harrison and the others away in handcuffs. The conspiracy was broken, justice finally arriving, but Julia couldn't think about victory. Could only think about Victor's blood on her hands, his unconscious face. In the ambulance racing toward Presbyterian Hospital, Julia held Victor's hand and made promises. "You're going to survive this," she said fiercely. "We both are. And when you wake up, I'm going to tell you every day that I love you. No more hiding. Just us, being honest about what we are." The paramedic looked up. "Ma'am, his vitals are stabilizing. He's a fighter." "I know," Julia said, her voice breaking. "He's been fighting his whole life, but after tonight he doesn't have to fight alone anymore. We fight together." The waiting room at Presbyterian Hospital became Julia's entire world. White walls, uncomfortable chairs, the smell of antiseptic and fear. She refused to leave, refused to sleep. Torres stayed through that first terrible night, bringing coffee neither of them drank. "Jules, you did it. The entire conspiracy is unraveling. 47 officers implicated so far." Julia barely heard her. "Victory meant nothing if Victor died." "The media's calling you a hero," Torres continued. "They want interviews." "I don't care." Julia's voice was hollow. "He saved my life. Again. And if he dies because of it." Torres sat beside her, took her hand. "He's going to make it, Jules. Victor Agello didn't survive 8 years in the criminal underworld just to die saving you. He's too stubborn." Her mother arrived as dawn broke, pulling Julia into an embrace that finally broke her composure completely. "He's in surgery," Julia managed between sobs. "The bullet collapsed his lung, nicked an artery. They've been working on him for 12 hours. Then we wait," Angela said firmly. "And we pray." Dr. Volkov emerged periodically with updates ranging from devastating to cautiously hopeful. The bullet had collapsed Victor's left lung, nicked the subclavian artery, required hours of microsurgery. They'd transfused 12 units of blood. His heart had stopped twice on the operating table. "We're doing everything we can," Volkov said. "But the next 48 hours are critical." "He'll make it," Julia interrupted, unable to hear alternatives. "He has to." 36 hours after surgery, Volkov emerged with different news. "He's stable. Critical but stable. We've moved him to ICU." Julia stood so fast she nearly fell. "I can see him?" "Yes, but don't expect him to respond. The sedation is deep." The ICU was a forest of machines. Victor looked small and vulnerable among the technology keeping him breathing. Tubes ran everywhere. His face was pale, slack with unconsciousness. Julia pulled a chair beside his bed, took his hand carefully. His skin was cool but not cold. His pulse was visible in his wrist, steady and real. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm right here, and I'm not leaving. You don't get to save my life twice and then leave. That's not how this works." She talked for hours. About the arrests, the media coverage building into national scandal. About Torres's investigation revealing corruption in 6 bases. About the foundation Victor had built, the scholarships, the families helped. "You're a hero," Julia said, voice breaking. "You chose to be better when you didn't have to. You chose me, chose justice, chose Marcus's memory over your own safety. That's who you are." She told him about letters flooding the foundation offices, military families thanking them, soldiers finding courage to report corruption, about congressional hearings being scheduled, Pentagon investigations launched. "Marcus would be so proud of you," Julia whispered. "I'm proud. I love you so much, and I need you to come back to me." Days blurred together. Julia existed in a haze of hospital sounds and antiseptic smells. On the 3rd day, they reduced his sedation. "Let's see if he's ready to wake up," Volkov said. "Talk to him. Let him hear your voice." Julia leaned close, whispered into his ear. "Victor, it's time to wake up now. I need you to open your eyes and see me. To know that we won. That Harrison and all of them are going to pay." She waited. Nothing. "Come on, Victor. You're stubborn, remember? Prove it. Open your eyes." His eyelids fluttered. Barely perceptible, but Julia saw it. Her heart leaped. "That's it. Come back to me. Please, Victor, come back." His eyes opened slowly, confusion giving way to awareness. He tried to speak around the breathing tube, making distressed sounds. Julia hit the call button. "Easy. Easy. Don't fight the tube. You're okay. You're going to be okay." The ICU team descended. The respiratory therapist assessed his breathing, then carefully removed the tube. Victor coughed, gasped. His first independent breaths labored but real. "Water," he croaked, voice destroyed. A nurse brought ice chips. Julia fed them to him carefully. When the medical team finally gave them privacy, Victor looked at Julia with eyes that held pain, but also recognition, relief, love. "You're crying," he managed. "You scared me," Julia said, tears streaming. "Don't ever do that again." "Would do it, every time." His hand squeezed hers weakly. "Had to. Protect you. I know, and I love you for it. But I need you alive, Victor. I need you here, with me, building the life we talked about." His smile was faint but genuine. "Love you too. Always have." Julia kissed his forehead. "Rest now. Heal. I'm not going anywhere." Recovery was slow, painful. Victor chafed at the weakness, the inability to walk without assistance. But Julia was there for every struggle, every small victory. 5 days after waking, Victor received his first official visitor. Special Agent Webb from the FBI. "Mr. Antonelli. Or should I say Mr. Agello?" "Victor is fine," Victor said. Webb pulled out documents. "The U.S. Attorney wants to discuss your legal situation." Julia's hand tightened on Victor's. They'd known this was coming. "Your cooperation was instrumental in exposing the conspiracy," Webb continued. 38 arrests so far, hundreds of millions in recovered assets." He paused. "But you still purchased illegal weapons, ran a criminal organization. Those crimes don't disappear." "I know what I did," Victor said steadily. "I'm not asking for a pass." Webb slid papers across. "The U.S. Attorney is offering a deal. Full immunity for crimes related to the Harrison investigation and your weapons purchases, on the grounds you believed you were dealing with corrupt contractors, not active-duty military, for your other activities." He paused. "You dismantle your organization completely. Every shell company, every offshore contact turned over. Provide testimony against every corrupt official you've dealt with. Stay out of organized crime permanently. And you continue funding the Marcus Antonelli Foundation." "And my people?" Victor asked. "Already cleared. Their actions during the investigation were legitimate." Victor looked at Julia, saw her fierce hope. "What about Julia's career? Captain Smith?" Webb smiled. "She's receiving the Soldier's Medal for exceptional heroism. She'll be promoted to major within the month. There's talk of her testifying before Congress about military reform." Victor studied the documents, then looked at Julia again. She nodded slightly. "I'll sign," Victor said, "but I have conditions." Webb raised an eyebrow. "You're not exactly in a position to negotiate." "Aren't I?" Victor's smile held his old edge. I have information about corrupt officials in 7 states, financial records of shell companies, contacts in defense industries. You want to dismantle the entire network? You need me cooperative, not coerced. Webb was silent, then nodded. What are your conditions? The foundation continues under my direction, fully legitimate, with government oversight if necessary. My people get clean records, and Julia gets whatever protection she needs. Done, Webb said. Anything else? One more thing. Victor's voice was hard. Marcus's name gets cleared, officially. His death gets reinvestigated, the truth entered into his service record. He died a hero trying to expose corruption. Webb consulted his notes. Already in the works. Your brother's case is at the top of the list. Victor exhaled slowly. Then we have a deal. After Webb left, Victor leaned back, exhausted but strangely peaceful. You're really free, Julia said wonderingly. We both are. Free to build something real, Victor agreed, pulling her closer. No more running. Just us, doing work that matters. Just us, Julia echoed, and kissed him gently. Asterisk, asterisk, epilogue, asterisk, asterisk. 18 months later, Victor and Julia hosted the Foundation's annual fundraiser at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. The event had become a touchstone for military families and reform advocates. The museum's grand hall was transformed. Photographs of the fallen lined the walls, each with a brief biography highlighting their courage. Marcus's photo held the place of honor, his smile captured weeks before his death. Julia, now Major Julia Smith, wore her dress uniform with quiet pride. 18 months of congressional testimony and advocacy work had made her a national figure, but she'd never sought fame, only justice. Victor stood beside her in a simple tuxedo, greeting guests with easy grace. The transformation from crime lord was complete, not just externally but internally. He'd found peace with his past. You two are inspiring, Senator Williams gushed. A love story born from tragedy. After she moved on, Victor leaned close to Julia. Think they'd still call it inspiring if they knew I used to run the Philadelphia Mafia? They know, Julia whispered back, amused. Everyone knows. Your testimony was public record. And they love you anyway, Julia continued. That's the point. Redemption makes a better story than perfection. The evening progressed with speeches and testimonials. Torres spoke about military reform. General Westwood, retired now, having served 3 years in prison, shared her journey from complicity to advocate. When it was Victor's turn to speak, he stood at the podium looking out over hundreds of faces. My brother Marcus died 18 years ago this week, Victor began. He was 23 years old, idealistic, brave. He discovered corruption in his unit and decided to expose it. That decision cost him his life. The room was silent, attentive. For 8 years after his death, I became someone he wouldn't have recognized. Someone dark and dangerous. I hurt people. I broke laws. Victor paused. I'm not proud of those years, but I'm not ashamed either, because they led me here, to this foundation, to the woman standing beside me who saved me in every way a person can be saved. He looked at Julia, saw tears in her eyes, love in her expression. Marcus believed in integrity. He believed that truth mattered, that doing the right thing was worth personal cost. He died for those beliefs. And now, through this foundation, through all of you, those beliefs are living on. The applause was thunderous. Later, as they danced, Victor pulled her close. Marry me, Victor said quietly. Julia's head came up. What? Marry me, Victor repeated, steady and sure. Because I can't imagine my life without you. Because you saved me in every way a person can be saved. Because I love you more than I thought I was capable of loving anything. Julia's eyes filled with tears. Victor. He stopped dancing, pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a simple platinum band with a single diamond. I know I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building this foundation, helping people, being better together than we could ever be apart. Julia was openly crying now. Yes. Absolutely yes. 1,000 times yes. Victor slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Then he kissed her, deeply, thoroughly, a promise sealed in front of witnesses. The ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. They married 3 months later in a ceremony at the Foundation offices, surrounded by photographs of the people whose deaths had made this possible. Marcus's photo held the place of honor, his smile seeming to bless the union. Angela Smith cried through the entire event. Torres served as Julia's maid of honor. Reaper stood as Victor's best man. Dr. Volkov officiated. His blessing was simple but profound. You two found each other in darkness and chose to walk into light together. That's what love is. Not perfection, but persistent choice to be better because of each other. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Victor's voice was steady. I vow to honor Marcus's memory by being the man he believed I was. I vow to protect you, support you, and love you through whatever comes. I vow to build with you the kind of life that makes our struggles meaningful. Julia's voice broke slightly but carried. I vow to stand beside you in darkness and light. I vow to remember that redemption is real, that people can change, that love transforms. I vow to build with you something beautiful from all the pain we survived. Their first dance was to Chopin's Nocturne, the same piece playing in Victor's car the night he found Julia dying. Think Marcus would approve? Julia asked. I think he'd say I finally got something right, Victor replied. That I finally became the man he always believed I was. You were always that man, Julia corrected gently. You just forgot for a while. I'm glad you remembered. Years passed in a rhythm of purpose and love. The foundation expanded nationwide, helping military families in 12 countries. Julia rose to lieutenant colonel, implementing reforms that prevented corruption. Victor's memoir became a bestseller. All proceeds donated to veteran charities. They bought a house in suburban Philadelphia, a Victorian with good bones and a garden, planted roses and vegetables, adopted a rescue dog named Scout, hosted Sunday dinners for the extended family their work had created. Life became beautifully, miraculously ordinary. Grocery shopping and mortgage payments, arguments about dishes, lazy Sunday mornings. The kind of domestic peace neither had thought possible during those dark days. They visited Marcus's grave together each year on the anniversary of his death, bringing flowers and updates. Told him about scholarships awarded, reforms implemented, lives changed. We did it, little brother, Victor said one year. We exposed them, changed the system, made sure you didn't die for nothing. Julia knelt beside him. He'd be so proud of you, Victor. Proud of the man you've become, proud of what we've built together. On the 8th anniversary of the night Victor found Julia on that rain-soaked highway, they returned to the spot. It had become their tradition. The highway looked different in daylight, during spring. Traffic flowed steadily, ordinary people going ordinary places, unaware of the life and death drama that had unfolded here. I was so close to driving past, Victor admitted. Every instinct screamed at me to keep going. But you didn't, Julia said, squeezing his hand. You stopped. You chose compassion over convenience. You chose me over safety. Best decision I ever made. Victor pulled her close. Everything good in my life now comes from that moment. From choosing you. They stood together in the place where their story began, watching the sunset paint the sky. Behind them, years of healing, justice served, lives changed. Ahead, decades of partnership, love, purpose. As they drove home, to their house, their dog, their deliberately chosen life, Julia took Victor's hand. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For stopping that night, for choosing compassion, for proving that some rules are worth breaking when love and justice demand it. Victor brought her hand to his lips, kissed it gently. Thank you for seeing who I could be when I'd forgotten, for loving me despite everything, for giving me reasons to be better every single day. They'd both shattered the rules that defined them. Criminal and soldier, darkness and light, revenge and justice. And in the breaking, they'd found something stronger than law or duty or expectation. They'd found each other, found purpose, found redemption. Victor had taken lives in his past. Too many. But he'd saved countless others through the foundation, through testimony, through choosing grace when vengeance would have been easier. He'd learned that redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building a future worth the struggle. Julia had nearly died for integrity, but she'd survived to ensure no other soldier would face the betrayal she'd endured. Together, they'd proven that love could grow in impossible soil, that broken people could heal together, that honor existed beyond uniforms and allegiances, that the most meaningful lives often emerged from the darkest circumstances. As they pulled into their driveway, Scout barking excited greetings from inside, Victor turned to Julia with a smile that held everything they'd survived and everything they'd built. "Ready for whatever comes next?" Julia smiled back. "With you? Always." They walked into their home together. To Scout's enthusiastic welcome, to dinner cooking, to photo albums documenting their journey from highway to forever. The house smelled like hope and home, like redemption made tangible. And as night fell over Philadelphia, two people who'd found each other in a storm settled into the peaceful ordinariness they'd fought so hard to achieve. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and lasting and worth every impossible choice that led them here. Marcus Antonelli's photograph watched from the mantel, his smile eternal, his legacy living on in every life the foundation touched. He died believing in integrity. His brother had honored that belief by transforming pain into purpose, rage into redemption. And in the end, that was the greatest victory possible. Not just exposing corruption or achieving justice, but proving that even from tragedy and darkness, something beautiful could grow. Something like love, something like forever, something worth every sacrifice it took to find. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves powerful stories. Your support helps these tales reach more hearts.